War, Courage, and Friendship. The Fate of the Space Cats. The veteran feline Klautok stepped away for a moment, observing his students with a deep gaze full of memories. The little paws of the recruits were raised with excitement, eager to hear more. One of the kittens, still hesitant, asked a shy question, to which Klautok responded in a serene yet intriguing tone. "So, you want to know more?" His voice echoed through the room, and the young felines responded with enthusiasm, tapping their tails against the ground. Young ones always want to hear about humans. Klautok sighed, adjusted himself on his command cushion, and began telling the story, the same one he had repeated countless times, but never without emotion. The story of the first contact. The moment when the space felines realized they were not, in fact, at the top of the galactic hierarchy. The training room was spacious, adorned with holograms of ancient battles, maps of conquered planets, and medals of bravery that shone under the soft lighting. The kittens sat in a disciplined formation, their eyes wide with curiosity. Klautok began his tale with the same solemnity with which the generals of great empires spoke of the glorious days of war. It was a distant planet, a land conquered by right. It wasn't of great agricultural importance, but it had something valuable, a vast underground reserve of pure, clean water, essential for the survival and growth of crops for the Sindai race, who had colonized it. The soil of this planet, MST 3333, also had properties ideal for cultivating a beverage highly prized by felines: coffee. And where there's coffee, there's wealth. Thus, the king of felines, Klautok, gave his blessing to the warriors and ordered the attack. The offensive was swift and devastating. No unnecessary suffering was allowed, and the bodies of the Sindai were treated with respect, returning to their home world. A clean victory, an efficient occupation. But before continuing this story, let me ask you something. Have you ever imagined what it's like to face an enemy that fears nothing? What would it be like to encounter warriors who don't retreat? If you want to understand the grandeur of what happened, pay attention, because this lesson could change how you see the universe. If this story has caught your attention, then prepare yourselves. The lessons Klautok learned could shape the fate of any civilization. Don't miss a single detail of what's to come, because knowledge could be the difference between victory and destruction. What the felines didn't know was that the Sindai had recently formed an alliance with the humans. Just days after the planet was taken, even before the first restructuring equipment arrived, a massive human ship appeared on the horizon. It hovered in space like a floating fortress, imposing and silent. Its metallic hull reflected the bluish light of the stars, and in its shadow, the planet MST 3333 looked like a mere speck of dust. Then, suddenly, hundreds of small ships emerged from its interior and dove into the atmosphere. The United Earth Marine Corps had arrived. The feline forces were positioned behind a barrier of defensive shields, protected from all known weapons in the galaxy. The humans, however, did not attack immediately. A small module landed at a distance, far from the front lines, and from it emerged between 30 and 40 Marines in heavy armor. They advanced without hesitation, ignoring the fire from the felines, as their armor was too resistant for conventional weapons. The battle was desperate. The humans advanced relentlessly, moving in precise formations. Their dark helmets hid their expressions, transforming them into specters of war. When one of them fell, two others took his place. A group of soldiers used thrusters to scale the hill and take an elevated position above the feline defense wall. From there, they opened fire, hitting the unprotected side of Klautok's forces. The felines were cornered. There were no more leaders. Klautok watched as his commanders were gunned down one by one, unable to react. They were lost. He felt the weight of despair, and in that moment, he recalled a strange concept he had heard about humans. Surrender. The word sounded strange in his mouth. The students listening to him cried out, confused and incredulous. How was it possible to just stop fighting? How could one win by losing? Even to this day, this idea seemed wrong to Klautok. But in that situation, it was the only choice. He tore off his white uniform shirt and tied it around his weapon. His best friend tried to stop him, calling him crazy, but Klautok ignored him. With a bold leap, he climbed the wall, exposing himself to enemy fire, and raised the white cloth in the air. The humans stopped. Silence fell over the battlefield like a dense fog. The gunfire ceased instantly. Then, a single human marine slowly advanced towards him. He approached with no hurry, as if he already knew what the outcome of that meeting would be. In a firm voice, he declared that he accepted the unconditional surrender. The felines, hesitant, followed Klautok's example. They all made it home alive. Surrender had saved them. The veteran looked around the room, observing the fixed gazes of the young felines. They wanted to know more. They wanted to know what happened next. Klautok continued, explaining that the humans treated them with respect. Their weapons were confiscated, but they were well-fed, housed, and interrogated for weeks. When the investigation concluded, the Marines returned the planet to the Sindai and helped rebuild their agricultural colonies. Then, one day, without warning, the humans simply sent them home. No grand speeches, no threats, no fanfare. They just put them on a ship and took them back to their world. But this, Klautok said, was a story for another day. And you kittens, are you prepared for what comes next? If you want to learn more, be ready for tomorrow. There is much more to discover. Don't let this story end here. The future depends on those who learn from the past. The kittens meowed excitedly, discussing among themselves, still absorbing the grandeur of that tale. Klautok smiled lightly and stood up, heading for the door. I have a surprise for you. The door opened, and through it entered a gigantic being. A human. And so, the story teaches us that courage is not only in the battle, but also in the wisdom of choosing the right path. If you want to continue exploring epic stories like this, share it with other star travelers and get ready for the next journey.